This idea that the creation of the cosmos itself might actually be a prophetic shadow, a glimpse of the Messiah Yahshua's arrival.
Exactly. We'll be drawing on, your reflections about Bereshith, its Genesis, and also looking at Messiah's birth, the divine design of time.
And the Mishkan, too, right, which, just so everyone knows, is pronounced Mishkan, like con artist. That's a key piece here, too.
Absolutely. The Mishkan is crucial. So our goal, really, is to unpack the parallels you've highlighted between how the skies and earth were first brought into being and the actual birth of Yahshua the Messiah.
Offering a new way, maybe, to understand both of these incredibly significant events.
That's the hope, a deeper lens.
Okay, let's jump right in. Bereshith 1.1. Your translation isn't the typical in the beginning, but at first. Why that specific phrasing? What does at first tell us?
Well, at first, emphasizes something foundational. It suggests a singular unified event where the potential for the skies and the earth was created, sort of pre-ordered, before the 6 days even start.
So not the start of the process of making things over 6 days, but the creation of the raw materials, maybe?
In a way, yes.
Right.
A complete initial state. It existed, but it wasn't yet formed or structured. It's the origin point.
And right after that, at first, the description is in disarray, inornate, and obscured. That sounds quite chaotic.
It does, but maybe not chaotic in the sense of destruction. Think of it more like raw potential, unorganized. It's like having all the parts for something complex, but they're just in a pile waiting for assembly. Not ruined, just waiting.
Waiting for the Almighty Creator's input.
Precisely. Waiting for the divine structuring.
Which begins on day one. The spoken word, let there be light. Light first. Why is light so significant as the very first step in bringing order?
Light is fundamental, isn't it? It dispels the obscurity mentioned earlier. It introduces clarity, definition. It's the absolute beginning of imposing order onto that pre-ordered, but formless state. The Creator speaks and order begins.
And we also have the Spirit of the Almighty Creator hovering or moving over the waters. What's happening there? Is it just watching?
Oh, definitely not just watching. The Hebrew implies something much more active, like brooding or vibrating almost. It's a dynamic presence.
Bringing life.
Energy. Exactly. Bringing potential life, bringing the energy needed for the ordering process that follows over the next days. It's the active force preparing to shape everything.
So this whole initial phase, at first, the disarray, the spirit moving, it's like the conception and birth of the raw universe.
That's a good way to put it. It's the birth of the skies and the earth in their foundational pre-ordered state. The stage is set.
Okay, let's pivot now to the Messiah Yahshua. You see his arrival as mirroring this cosmic birth. You place his conception on Pentecost and his birth on Nisan 1. How does that connection work?
Well, just as the initial creation brought divine order into the physical world, the Messiah's arrival represents a new kind of beginning, a rebirth of the divine presence directly within humanity on earth.
A new creation, almost.
A new creation, yes. It's the start of a new divine order, aimed at restoring humanity's relationship with the Almighty Creator, mirroring how that first creation established physical order.
And you bring the Mishkan back in here. How does the dwelling place relate to the Messiah's birth?
The parallel is quite striking, I think. The Mishkan was conceived, you could say, when the Almighty Creator gave Moses the detailed instructions, the blueprint.
Right, the pattern.
Yes, the divine pattern. Then it was birthed when it was assembled. Similarly, the Messiah's conception by the Holy Spirit and his physical birth represent a new kind of dwelling place for the Almighty Creator, not of curtains and wood, but of flesh. He becomes the ultimate temple.
John 1.14, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us,
Yes.
tabernacle.
Exactly. He tabernacled. He became the Mishkan among us.
You also talk about his birth of water and birth of the Spirit. How does that relate to believers?
The birth of water is his physical arrival, his entry into the world. This makes possible the birth of the Spirit, which refers to his divine purpose and the spiritual transformation he enables for those who follow him. Believers then experience their own new birth, spiritually connecting to the new reality he brought.
So he doesn't just establish the new order, he becomes the way into it.
Precisely. He embodies the new covenant. He's the Mishkan, the meeting place between the Almighty Creator and humanity.
This focus on timing, like Nisan 1, seems really important in your work. What's the significance of that specific date, the 1st of Nisan?
Nisan 1 is huge in the Hebrew calendar. It's designated as the beginning of months, the start of the religious year. It's directly linked to the Exodus, the liberation from Egypt. It's the true new year, biblically speaking.
And you connect this date through passages like Shmouth Exodus 12:1 to 2, not just to the Exodus, but also back to creation and forward to the Messiah's birth.
Yes. The implication is that this date holds profound significance across salvation history. It suggests that the Messiah's birth wasn't just a random event in time, but was precisely woven into this divine design of time, aligning with the patterns of creation and redemption established right from the beginning.
Wow, okay. So the parallels are multi-layered. Creation and the Messiah. You also mentioned the 7 days of creation mirroring other things.
That's right. The progressive ordering over 7 days seems to be a pattern. You can see echoes of it, for instance, in the 7 distinct steps outlined for constructing the Mishkan. And arguably, you could trace 7 key stages in the Messiah's own life and ministry.
And the first day of creation, with light and order emerging.
Marks the initiation of the Almighty Creator's new order on earth, the kingdom of heaven, breaking into human history. It's the dawn of a new spiritual reality.
And this new reality isn't just about him, it involves his followers too. You mentioned believers becoming a spiritual dwelling.
Yes. Just as the physical Mishkan was built to house the Almighty Creator's presence, the Messiah's birth makes it possible for believers collectively to become a spiritual house, a dwelling place for the Holy Spirit.
So the community of faith becomes a sort of living Mishkan.
In essence, yes. We are being built together. His birth is the foundation stone for that entire spiritual structure, for the journey of every believer.
Now, something you push back against strongly is the gap theory, or ruin restoration theory, the idea of a big gap and a destroyed Earth between Genesis 1.1 and 1.2. Why is rejecting that idea important for this whole picture?
It's crucial because the gap theory fundamentally changes the nature of that initial state. My understanding is that Genesis 1.1 and 1.2 describe the original creation in its pre-ordered, unformed state, not a world already judged and ruined that needs fixing.
So in disarray, inornate, and obscured isn't the result of a catastrophe.
No, I don't believe so. It's the starting condition. And when Genesis 2.4 uses the word asa, often translated made, in reference to the creation, I see it more as structured or ordered, implying the organizing of the pre-existing potential from 1.1, not a recreation.
You also mentioned something about the grammar, the Hebrew structure.
Yes, the specific grammatical form called the wa consecutive, which indicates sequence, doesn't actually appear until the narrative of day 1 begins in verse 3. This suggests grammatically that verses 1 and 2 are describing a contemporaneous state, the condition at first rather than 1.1 happening, then a ruin, then 1.2 describing the ruin before the restoration starts in 1.3.
And your at first translation reinforces that idea of a single starting point.
Exactly. It supports a reading of creation as a progressive ordering from disarray, not a restoration after ruin.
The meaning of the Hebrew words themselves, tohu and bohu, is key here too, right? You argue they don't mean ruin.
Correct. Based on how they're used elsewhere in the lexical understanding, tohu and bohu point more towards formlessness, emptiness, an undeveloped state, not necessarily devastation or the result of judgment. There's just no mention of judgment or destruction in those opening verses.
So it's a smooth, progressive revealing of order day by day.
That's how I see the text unfolding,
Mm-hmm.
a sequential, deliberate process of bringing structure and fullness from that initial potential-filled state.
Okay, let's loop back one more time to the Mishkan, because it seems so central. How does its story really seal this parallel with the Messiah?
Well, remember Exodus 25.8, the command, "Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them." The Mishkan was explicitly about divine presence.
The Almighty Creator choosing to live with his people.
Yes, and that finds its ultimate fulfillment in the Messiah. Conceived by the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, he is the dwelling. As John said, he tabernacled, he mishkaned among us.
And the timing, again, the Mishkan was completed and assembled, essentially birthed on Nisan 1, according to Exodus 40.
Exactly. Which aligns perfectly with the view of the Messiah's birth also being on Nisan 1. You have the physical dwelling place established on the same date that centuries later, the ultimate living dwelling place arrives. It's a powerful temporal echo.
The physical foreshadowing the spiritual reality.
Precisely. The Mishkan points forward, it anticipates the Messiah, and ultimately it even anticipates the New Jerusalem described in Revelation, where the final verse you mentioned, Revelation 21.3, says, "Behold, the tabernacle of the Almighty Creator is with men, and he will dwell with them." It's the ultimate fulfillment of that desire for divine presence that started with creation itself.
So, pulling this all together, it seems the creation narrative isn't just about how the world began physically. In your view, it's deeply embedded with prophetic clues, pointing directly towards the arrival of the Messiah Yahshua. It reveals this amazing divine pattern.
Yes, a pattern of establishing order, presence, and new beginnings, both in the cosmos and then profoundly within humanity through the Messiah.
It certainly offers a rich way to read both Genesis and the Gospels, seeing them as interconnected parts of one grand design.
It does. And perhaps it leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about. How does seeing creation and the Messiah's birth as these intertwined birth events deepen your own understanding of the Almighty Creator's plan? And, what